Hello, my dear Confused Tenor Society, my dear CTS for abbreviation. I think I'm going to start doing that. Today we have another video in which I want to talk about one of the most important things when it comes to opera singing. And this also, in a way, references back to the video I made previously about the snarl. So I'm definitely going to be making some connections from this video and the last video. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out now. But yes, what we're talking about now is one of the most important things when it comes to opera singing. Actually, I think that you can't sing opera. You just can't if you don't do or understand this concept. And of course, we're talking about the concept of the tilt. Now, I've mentioned the tilt back in videos where I talked about passaggio. I'm going to try to keep it as short and condensed as possible. I know that I talk a lot. But if you try to sing opera without understanding the idea of the tilt, you're just going to end up yelling or screaming or grunting. There's just no way out of it. So let's get right to it. What is the tilt? Well, anatomically, the tilt is actually a laryngeal movement in which the larynx is actually tilting and moving slightly forward. When we do this correctly, the vocal cords are also in a better position to be able to stretch and thin, which, if you remember, is one of the golden rules when it comes to singing. If your vocal cords cannot stretch and thin as you ascend and go back to the resting position as you descend, you're just going to have a hard time when it comes to anything singing. So we naturally do this when we yawn. This is why I like to make a reference to my last video where I talked about the snarl. A lot of people understood the idea of the snarl and was able to get great results. Some people, however, perhaps didn't understand the point that it's not about the yawn or the snarl. It's both. You have to have the yawn. The yawn is the tilt. The yawn is the opening, the open throat. The snarl includes the yawn in it. It's not one or the other. You need to have both space, depth, soft palate up, larynx down, open throat, cavern of space in the tilt position. That's all parts of the yawn, but you also need to have correct impostazione, which is the placement of the sound, of the vowels need to be bright, clear, forward, dental like an Italian would, so as to not fall into the temptation of all your vowels going muddled, of that tongue being depressed, of all that space that you've created when you yawn being blocked and starting to sing artificially dark and mumbled and ingolato. None of that will pierce the orchestra or cut the orchestra. It won't have ping or squillo. We want not just oscuro, which is the overdoing of the yawn, the compressed larynx and everything falling back. And we also don't want just the chiaro, which is what a lot of people, I think, also perhaps misunderstood from my snarl. It's not about shoving sound in the nose or trying to get just a bright, clear vowel and abandoning the tilt position. No, you have to have both, okay? We will touch back on this later on. Going back to the tilt, yes, we do this when we naturally yawn. If you're at home right now, give me a nice big yawn, but a real one, okay? Like if you're just tired, you've been working a 24-hour shift, no sleep. Oh my God, you're just so tired. Oh yeah, wow, you have a lot of space. You should feel your throat opening because you wouldn't be actually yawning if your throat isn't open and if you haven't had all this space. Really dig deep. Feel how much space you have. Go to the extreme. See what your spectrum is as far as going into that dark, cavernous space when it comes to the yawn. You're going to see there's a very clear difference between the way you speak and the way you yawn. So I'm speaking to you right now in my normal voice. This is not how I'm going to sing opera. If I were to sing in my normal voice like this, it's going to sound like that. It's very difficult. It's a yell. My larynx has also no choice but to creep up higher and higher and higher and higher and close my throat, strangle me instead of opening. No, I am not going to cantar come parlar because I am not going to sing how I speak in this position. No, I'm going to sing how I speak in the tilt position. Now I'm going to switch to the tilt. Hi everybody, now I'm in the tilt, okay? I have a lot more access to my head voice and there's a very clear difference in quality of the sound between my speaking voice, hello, this is my speaking voice,
and my yawn tilted voice, okay? This voice has a lot more flexibility. There's a lot more of an elastic feeling to it. Of course, right now, I am not adding chord closure, so it sounds very breathy, it sounds very loose, it's very sighful, it's quite soothing to the voice, to the sound, and it sounds perhaps quite more hollow. It sounds more hollow, more spacious than this. This is my speaking voice. This is almost right in your face. Haha. And this is a little bit more feeling of this giro, of this turn, of this tilt, okay? I am dealing with a lot more space inside, in the back of my throat. My palate is raised high, and my larynx is quite low, so I have a lot of depth in this sound. And it may be funny and weird and goofy to you all, but this is the oscuro. This is what we're actually gonna want to maintain when we sing, right? This is the Patrick side of the SpongeBob and Patrick spectrum that I talked about in another video. Yeah, we're gonna need to maintain this when we sing.
This is very important because a lot of people, when they yawn, actually get to the correct position quite quickly, I would say. They're in the correct tilted position in which their larynx is low, their palate is high, and they have a lot of space. However, as soon as they sing, they collapse and they lose that position and they go right back to the position of which they just speak normally. In other words, they do this. Obviously that's an extreme, but the idea is that you start out well
in the tilted position, but then as you get higher and higher, or as you start to sing, your larynx shoots up and your entire open throat collapses. No, we want to maintain the tilt, okay? And a good exercise to do this is the following. Go back into your yawn. Give me a nice big yawn. Keep it breathy, keep it loose. Do not add chord closure. Don't do this. Not yet, not yet. Keep it breathy, keep it very much like a sigh. And we're gonna do a 5-note slide from the bottom to the top and sliding right back down, just as if we were doing one big yawn. Keep the jaw relaxed. It should always be morbido. Keep the tongue relaxed and keep the larynx low, but also in a relaxed position. Because we're not adding chord closure, we're able to isolate the idea of the tilt without adding subglottic pressure. So in my vocal chord closure video, I talked about how as soon as we start adding chord closure, we're going to be dealing with more subglottic pressure. If you do this incorrectly, or if you're not used to doing it, you're going to make your life quite hard, because subglottic pressure will tire you if you don't do it correctly, or if you're adding extra muscular tension. So just for now, for those people that can't quite understand how to keep their larynx low or can't quite understand the idea of the tilt, do this breathy. Do this without chord closure, with as little subglottic pressure as possible, letting a lot of air through those chords, because right now we're putting that aside and we're just isolating the idea of the tilt. Now let's talk about sensations, because as we know, opera singing has a lot to do with the signs, the anatomical part of it, and the sensations part of it, which seems to be always worlds apart. So, sensations. I feel when I take a really big yawn, everything opens up. This cavern of space opens up, right? The gola aperta. And when I sing, I feel like I almost have this invisible tennis ball in the back of my throat, keeping everything open. Words like dome, it feels very domey. It feels quite open, spacious. The sound feels quite hollow to me. That's hollow to me. That's how I interpret that terminology. Whereas this,
how I'm speaking to you now, is quite present.
The tilt, especially in this breathy position, feels quite hollow. Yeah.
The sound feels a lot higher to me. Again, these are sensations. We know that the sound originates in the vocal cords,
But the sensation is that it sounds quite like if it's going over a hill, kind of going back and over. And it's very much coming out of my head, which is probably why they call it head voice. Oh.
the sound itself is very soothing. It's a lot more gentler. It's a lot more
Smooth, very smooth and light.
than perhaps your speaking sound. Again, this is all terminologies to see if any of these click with what you're feeling. This is the preparation we need to do before we sing opera.
We need to get into the tilt. If we're not in the tilt, we're just setting ourselves up for failure. If we don't begin in the tilt, you have to be here.
The unfortunate thing is a lot of you can quite understand all the other concepts that we talked about that are all involved in opera singing, which is quite a few. But the problem is that if you don't begin in the tilt, unfortunately, it's like building a house and going through all the work of building this house, which takes months and months and sometimes years, but without a foundation. Without a foundation, that whole house is subject to crumble. Many of you have learned a lot of advanced concepts when it comes to singing, but if you don't have the tilt, if you didn't apply all those concepts in the tilt position, then unfortunately that foundation is not there and you're never going to get the result you want because you built it without the foundation. You've separated the two. I'm going to reiterate it again. You cannot sing opera in the same position as you speak, okay? It's not going to work. It's just not.
You have to dig deep into this yawn, okay?
And dig deeper than you think.
There's a lot of depth involved, okay?
Continue this exercise. Without adding chord closure. It's very soothing. Continue this exercise until you can take that exercise to the top of your range. Don't switch to falsetto. Don't do this. No, because again, you abandoned the tilt. No.
Stay in the tilt. This is still connected to the full voice. It's just very breathy, very loose.
Again, remember, we're just isolating the idea of getting relaxed and getting comfortable,
just being in the tilt, okay? Which for many of you, it's brand new information. It's gonna be completely different to what you're used to. And always making sure you do this exercise without tension.
That's already enough tension. No, you don't need that.
Always approach it in this idea of a sigh, which funny enough is a natural part of the yawn, because the first part of the yawn is opening the throat. The second part of a normal yawn is sighing.
So it's a natural part of the process. Use that sigh to go up and down and find the stretching, that comfortable stretching of the vocal cords, thinning and stretching as you ascend. You don't even need to sing note. No, make it one big slide, like if you were just one process of yawning. The next step is to see if in that breathiness, in that yawn tilted position that is quite loose and quite breathy, you could add a little vibrato, right? Being able to relax that larynx in its low position. Still breathy, still no chord closure, so we're not dealing with subglottic pressure tiring us.
Still very loose and relaxed.
And go half step
by half step by half step. Making sure your larynx is nice and low and that you still find that cavernous dome of space. You're still in this head voice, very breathy and loose. Really try not to switch to just pure falsetto and abandon that position. Don't do that. Don't abandon it. And you will know, because if you touch your larynx and you yawn, you will feel it go low. And as soon as you abandon the tilt position, you abandon the yawn, the larynx is going to easily and slowly just creep up, and then you lost it. I lost it. It went up. So use your finger, touch it gently, and see, mitigate where that larynx position is. If it goes high, stop, reset, and try again. If it's constantly going high, the higher you go, stop, go back and go lower. Don't go so high yet. Go lower, and little by little reinforce the good habit of maintaining comfortability and relaxation in this position. Great. Now that's the tilt. The next step to that is adding chord closure. But here's the biggest key when it comes to opera singing. It's adding chord closure in the tilt position. A lot of us have gotten used to adding chord closure in our normal speaking voice. That's not gonna work. You need to reteach yourself to add chord closure, correct, clear chord closure in this position. And again, I'm gonna reference the last video I made about the snarl and about the yawn. This is where the difference comes in, because the yawn, which gets us in this tilt position, already has a lot of head voice. There's a lot of space. There's a lot of dark qualities to it. If on top of that, we initiate chord closure with dark vowels, we're now heading into the dangerous path of over-darkening everything, of going into that ingolato trajectory, which we don't want. We have the space, and we need to keep the vowels clear and pure. Keep the vowels out of that space. Keep the tongue away from that space so as not to depress the larynx and add more muscular tension to that. No. You have the space, and now you're gonna want clean, pure vowels. Ah, eh, ah, 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 ah. You wanna say the vowels like an Italian would say it. Ah, e, I, O, U. They're quite bright. They're quite forward. They're quite clear and pure. It's not ah, I, O, U. No. No, no, no. That's not clean, clear impostazione of the voice. That is not pure vowels. If you're in the yawn position, and on top of that, you give me those dark vowels, you're gonna sound like this. There's a lot of artificially darkening going on there. That sound, as impressive as you think it sounds, will not cut through an orchestra. You might think it sounds big because it's warm and dark and round, but it's not. The resonance, which comes with vowel clarity and brightness and purity and correct placement of the sound, that's what's going to give you resonance. That's what's going to cut through the orchestra. That's the chiaro. That's the ping, the steel in the voice. So, as a vocal exercise, go back to your yawn. Feel that space. And now, in order for our larynx not to shoot up when we initiate chord closure, and also in order for us not to create dark vowels, we're gonna do in this tilted position a subglottal attack. And I want you to give me bright, pure vowels. Ah, ah, ah. And reset. Every time you do it, reset back into your yawn. Ah, eh, oh, oh, ah, How bright can you go without losing or without abandoning that tilted position, that yawn space? That's the goal. That's how you gradually isolate a concept and you work on it, okay? You start with a yawn, breathy, then you add just a little bit of vibrato, and then we're now adding chord closure with these subglottal attacks. The next step is now to sustain. Once you've gotten used to that, and you're comfortable with a subglottal attack, now it's sustaining. Ah, 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 ah. And always keep it sighing, okay? Never let it get tense. Ah, ah, ah. When you find the correct chord closure, but in the tilt position, now you're going to be getting that operatic quality result that perhaps you've been looking for. But remember, it's always a balance. It's never going one direction into the oscuro. And it's also not going and abandoning the tilt position, going the other direction, which is forward, fake mask. This is the wrong interpretation of singing in the mask. That's the fake interpretation of the mask. I will never tell you to shove sound in your nose or place your sound forward or here or nya. No, we never abandon the tilt position. True singing in the mask is finding the tilt position, that yawn space, and singing bright, clear vowels in that space. That's as simple as I can put it, ladies and gentlemen. That is singing in the mask. It's not shoving sound forward. It's not doing anything weird or corrupting your vowels. It's just singing bright vowels, a, e, I, o, u, in the yawn space. A, e, I, o, u. A, e, I, o, u. That's how you get this funnel of oscuro, right? This huge space of oscuro, focused, narrow, pointed into this ping, this resonance, this clarity of the sound. The better snarl, the better impostazione, the better clear and bright your vowels are, the more clarity you're going to get in the tone. Use the tilt position to open up that ceiling that you put yourselves in when you try to sing in your speaking position. No. Use the tilt position to open up the ceiling, to access the head voice, and to access the higher register of your voice, because it's easier, it's easier to stretch and thin the chords when you're in this position that's very elastic and stretchy, than it is to do it in this position. And then use the snarl and saying bright, clean, pure vowels to get the clarity of the tone and to get the resonance, the ping. No. No. Yes. Yes. Find that stretch. Maintain the tilt. You always have to have it. Even in recitative, even when you think the singers are just parlando, they're not. They're in the tilt. Della mia bella incognita borghese toccare il fin dell'avventura voglio. If I didn't have chord closure, it would sound like this. Della mia bella incognita borghese toccare il fin dell'avventura voglio. I'm still in the tilt. I'm never going to abandon that, even in recitative. I'm not going to switch to my speaking voice and saying, Della mia bella incognita borghese toccare il fin dell'avventura voglio. That's not opera. That's not really of operatic quality, not to the level that I would like it to be. And therefore, it's lacking depth. It's lacking certain warmth, certain roundness to the sound if I'm just singing in my speaking voice. No, you can't sing in your speaking voice. Again, no. Della mia bella. Add chord closure, bright vowels, clean. Della mia bella, della mia bella, della mia bella incognita borghese toccare il fin dell'avventura voglio. Now you're also singing recitatives that are clear. Manrico, sì, vieni, I'm in the tilt. I'm just giving very clear chord closure to be able to give clear, pure vowels.
So it sounds perhaps like I'm speaking in a resonant way, but I'm not.
I'm in the tilt, always in the tilt.
Try using these exercises to help you find, understand, and maintain the concept of the tilt. For many of you, it's going to be like reteaching yourselves how to sing, because this idea is going to be a completely different phonation process and a phonation position in which you're used to. Finding chord closure in that position is probably going to be the biggest challenge, because again, many of you have already developed the habit of finding chord closure in a much higher speaking position, but no, you want to find it with as much richness, depth, spaciousness
as you can, and that's all gonna come from the tilt.
Isolate the concepts without subglottic pressure. That's the best thing you can do when you're first starting out. I do it to this day as well.
I warm up with a breathy quality in the sound just to get the chords nicely stretching and thinning. Use that. Work the voice gradually, step by step. Don't just go for the finished result, for the finished product immediately. It's not going to happen. So that's all for today's video. I also wanted to take the time to announce something very exciting, in which I have now finally opened up the Confused Tenor Society, the CTS merchandise store, in which you can find all sorts of accessories ranging from hats, sweatshirts, t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, AirPod cases, iPhone cases, revolving with funny designs that have to do with opera, the tenor voice, and the singing voice. All of the proceeds go into helping and funding the channel. As you can imagine, I am trying to give all this information and make it free and accessible to as many people as I can, but it is always difficult to balance the performer's life, the teacher's life, and now the YouTube channel life. So anything helps to obviously keep the information thriving and to give you guys more content more frequently. If you're not interested in any of the merchandise, but you still want us to help and support the channel, you can always go through the feature called Super Thanks on YouTube, which allows you to give a gift to support the channel. However, you can also scroll down through the store page, in which you will find a donation form to help the Confused Tenor Society cause. I'll drop the link in the description for you guys to check it out. But don't worry, I'll make a separate video about all that soon. Keep studying, keep working, and like always, the work continues. Ciao, ciao for now.